Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another layout update video. A lot has happened in the last couple of months since my last video. I did mention that we would be moving. Back in May, my wife and I looked at a house and we fell in love with it. And we put an offer in on it, and the offer was accepted. And on July 2nd, we closed on the house and we began the process of moving from our apartment into our new house. So it's been very exciting. Unfortunately, the house does not have a garage or a basement, but I was able to lock down one of the spare bedrooms, which is a little bit larger than the room that I was in my apartment, to use as a layout space and for my office. So I've been busy trying to get settled in there, and I want to talk a little bit about that. As you can see in the video here, to move the layout, I decided to just box it up and bring it over in one piece. I was lucky enough that the main part of the layout is 10 feet long, and I was able to get that out of the stairway in my apartment and up the stairway in my new house and upstairs and around a corner without any issues. So very lucky indeed. I did not have to take the layout apart as I had originally planned, and that saved me a whole lot of headache. So this was a much easier process. I just took some boxes and nailed them or screwed them to the fascia to protect it. I put a tarp over top of the layout and threw it in the back of a flatbed, and we towed it over all in one piece. So it was very successful and very lucky that it worked out that way, and I'm going to talk more about it in just a second.
So we're in the new house now, and the layout has successfully made the trip. I thought for sure that it would crack along the seam that I put in right there in the event to actually cut it to move it. And I decided not to cut it because why cut it when I could take it in one piece? But I was really worried that it was going to crack or that there would be some sort of damage in there. And there is nothing. I think that's the seam right there, and even the pavement made it without a crack. So that is a success, I would say. Obviously, I haven't tested to see if the wiring underneath or if any of the switch machines survived the trip, but basically everything else has survived the trip. All of my little lights are still standing. I think we have just one broken tree a little bit further down there, but that's definitely no big deal. Even the fences stayed right there. I'm trying to shoot this on my iPhone, I haven't done this before. So even the fences have made the trip in one piece. So it's gonna take a little bit before I can actually get this place fully set up. Obviously, it's a mess. I don't even have my computer set up. I need to get that set up pretty soon so I can work. But the lay of the land here is the layout is gonna live right in this corner. And if I didn't already discuss it in the video already, I am planning to do a little bit of an extension here where I can sort of move this away from the wall a little bit and extend the industry tracks that go to the backdrop by about 10 inches or so, and potentially even put in an additional track up here and an engine shed over here. That's the hope, but that is going to be a long ways off before I get that far. I think I probably need to paint the walls a different color in here. And I did buy some soundproofing material. Not soundproofing, it's a sound dampening panel right there. I did buy a bunch of those that I think I'm gonna put on this section of the wall here from the ceiling to just behind where the backdrop is. And that'll help kind of cut down on the echo in here, and I'll probably get another different kind of sound panel for that wall there. Because we've got hardwood floors in here and it's quite echoey, so I'd like to knock some of that down. The other thing I'd like to do, if I didn't already mention it, is potentially build a box underneath the layout to raise it up a little bit higher, but also allow access to the underside of the layout for wiring and that sort of thing. Because I do want it to still sit on top of these IKEA bookshelves, because these are great for storage. but I have absolutely no way of accessing any of the wiring or the switch machines under there without actually having to slide the layout forward off of that. So I want to build some sort of I don't know, riser or box or cabinet or something like that I can kind of bring it up off the top of the bookshelves and have a little bit of space, maybe like a cabinet or something that I can open up and put my hands in and work on the wires and that sort of thing. But that also is yet to be determined on how I'm going to do that. What I don't want to do is I don't want to fixate the layout to the wall in any way. I want it to be easily movable and free-floating. And it's just because I know how I am, and I'll probably get to a point where I quote-unquote finish this layout and I might want to rip it out and do something else or sell it or whatever. So I always want to have that option to easily be able to take it out without destroying my wall or something along those lines. So those are just some ideas that I have now. It's going to be a long way off before I get to that point, but I will certainly keep you guys updated as things progress. I'm hoping maybe in the next week or 2 or 3, I can at least take the cardboard off of this and maybe run some wires and just make sure that everything still sort of functions a little bit. But again, I'm in no rush to do that because I have a whole house that looks like this. So that's the priority for now. So in order for me to actually get some of these boxes and things put away, they're actually full of all the things that belong on the layout. So I decided I was going to go ahead and take the layout out of its box. And we might as well just take a look and see if we see any damage initially. All the fencing is still standing. We may have lost a few little detail parts in there, but not too worried about that. I'll have to check all of the switch mechanisms here to make sure that they all work. That'll probably be something I do on a rainy day. Really just trying to make some space on the floor and in the house here so that I can unbox some more things and get this room set up. Everything looks pretty good. I did see that this was leaned over, but it's not broken. So that'll be an easy fix. We got a broken tree here, not a big deal. Doesn't really look like there's any other damage. I'm really surprised that the road did not crack at all or buckle or anything like that. So, I mean, it looks all pretty good. I'm not gonna put the layout back together probably anytime soon. I'm still trying to work out how I want to maybe build this extension that I'm sort of spitballing. This all seems pretty good, which is great. Might have lost some little rocks and things like that, but the guardrail is still there, the fencing is still there, my wiring is still in place. I guess that's the other thing I gotta check, is to make sure that all the wiring actually survived the move, and all of these actually survived as well. This one is a bit sticky. Controls this turnout here. It's really stiff. I was looking at it a few minutes ago, but I'm not really sure what the issue is. So I might need to do a little surgery on that before I get too far. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna start putting buildings back on the layout so I can clear some floor space. And we'll have to go from there. I think the scariest thing about N-scale is that there could be a model in any of these pieces of paper. And you really wouldn't even know it. You have to kind of really squish it and make sure that there's not something wrapped in there. Like that was wrapped in a piece of paper and I almost missed it.
Alright, so let's talk a little bit about this updated track plan. Keep in mind that I drew this track plan up before I actually moved the model into the current space that it's in. So this sort of just represents the best case scenario and sort of like an idealized version of the track plan that I would love to achieve eventually one day. First thing you're going to see here is essentially what the current track plan is. So now this is not a totally redrawn track plan. I'm going to use the existing layout that I have, obviously, and I just want to expand upon it. So what you're seeing here is essentially what the existing track plan looks like. What you'll notice is towards the top of the image here, some of the sidings that go to the industries have been expanded by about 8 to 10 inches. Now this would allow me to have an additional 2 freight cars per industry, which would certainly expand operation a little bit, and would also allow the industry tracks to be perpendicular to the yard, just like they are on the prototype. On the right side of the image, you'll see that the track extends behind the car barge. This is meant to represent staging for the Long Island Railroad so that the trains that actually originate here in the Cross Harbor yard actually have a place to run to take the cars out of the yard and bring them someplace else, and then bring interchange cars back from the LIRR or New York and Atlantic or Conrail or whatever era I'm modeling or representing when I'm operating. But it just allows for trains to actually be able to exit the Cross Harbor yard and go someplace else and bring other cars back. At the bottom of the image, you'll see probably the most comprehensive part of the expansion of this. On the left side of the image, there is the engine shed, which I would like to scratch build or have laser cut since I already have a design for it because I used it in the Cross Harbor for trains. But you also see that there's some additional tracks on the lower side there, closest to the front fascia. That'll be an additional runner track and 2 or 3 additional stub-ended yard tracks. And then on the left side next to the engine shed is just an extended yard lead over there. So this would better represent the prototype, would give me a little bit more operational capabilities, some more storage for interchange cars now that I have the staging track for the LIRR. So this would definitely allow for a lot more operational capabilities, and as well as having the engine shed, which would serve as a place to store all of the engines that I have. I'd like to fully model the locomotive roster for the Cross Harbor, so having a place to store them would be great, because right now I don't, and they just sort of live somewhere on one of the yard tracks when I'm not using them. But the thing is, now that I actually have the layout in the space that it's going to be permanently living in, I've realized that this track plan is a little bit too ambitious for the space that I have available. So what I think I'm going to do is nix the extended industry tracks on the far side of the layout and focus more on the engine shed and the additional yard tracks, plus the interchange track on the right-hand side. This will allow me to sort of keep a very similar footprint. I'll only be adding maybe 6 inches or so to the front edge of the layout, and I wouldn't really be adding too much to the side behind the car barge as well. So this sort of maintains a bit of the footprint that I have available. Oh, and then on the left side where the engine shed is another 12 inches or so. So it's within a margin of space that I have available. I just do not have the space available to extend those industry tracks perpendicular to the yard. At least right now I don't. So maybe in the future, but for now I'm going to focus on adding those additional yard tracks, the engine shed, and the interchange track. And I think that that is going to help expand the operational capabilities significantly, and I think it would just be a lot of fun to do. The only downside to this track plan and this design is the fact that the addition is going to be on the front edge of the layout, which means that I have to remove the fascia and all of the switch controllers that I have installed, and I'll have to reinstall all the existing ones that are connecting to the yard ladder and install a handful of new ones, because I'll be adding 6 or 8 new turnouts as well. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's certainly going to be doable, and I think the reward at the end of it is going to be more operational capability. So that is really what I'm going for a layout like this. And again, this is something that is going to be way off in the future, probably the next year or so, but I want to get planning and getting the idea in my head now. But that is my hope and plan for the future. But there's one more thing.
The workbench. And this is sort of the linchpin to actually getting everything that is behind me put away. Because this was the closet for this room, and it seems to be the only place that I could really put my workbench, because there's just not enough space in the rest of this room to have a workbench and my computer set up and the layout. So I decided I'm going to put the workbench in the closet. I took the doors off and I'm going to completely custom build a whole thing in here. So I've got a really nice 2.5-inch thick butcher block as my tabletop. I still need to put some polyurethane on it, but I really like the stain that I put on there, and I've got it cut to fit the space. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a shelf up here, and that shelf is gonna be just for storage. I'll have another shelf underneath, which will be for all of my books and reference material and stuff like that. And then I want to have some kind of storage set up on either one side or both sides for my paints and styrene and all the other sort of things that I use to build models. So I'm still sort of trying to figure out exactly how this is all going to come together. I've got a pretty loose idea and I've got a design and I've got some inspiration that I'm working off of. I'll put some of those pictures up on the screen right now. But essentially, I just want this to be my workspace. I'll install some nice lighting as well underneath and just get this to be like a really sweet spot to work on the models and get some stuff done. But that it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but I need to get this done before I can really move forward with anything else because I need the storage space up there. But I got a lot of work ahead of me. I took, there was a whole bookshelf built in here. I took that out, but as you can see, there's some damage to the walls here. This is just raw drywall here, so I've got to fill this in. I need to prime this, and then I need to paint everything again. So it's gonna be quite the project, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a good way to fully customize my setup and get it to be exactly what I want. So I'm pretty excited about it, but man, it's gonna be a bit of a process.
So that's going to do it for this absolutely chaotic layout update video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.